Hey everyone, thanks for tuning to Alex CFB 25. Yes, the rankings week begins tomorrow. The first 2 days, no knock on them. It's going to be the toughest places to play and the sights and sounds. That's great. But we are really focused on June 27th and 28th for the true hardcore fans because that's when we find out when the top offenses and defenses are on June 27th, and June 28th is when we find out overall rankings. So let's take a look at some of the pre rankings that they showed in the deep dive, right? These aren't official yet, these are subject to change. But with that being said, I know from the previous video we've already had some comments. How can Iowa and Michigan be similar ratings? I get it. Michigan won a national title. They're without their coach. There's going to be some continuity issues at first, potentially making the transition. But it's hard to say that these teams are 100% equally balanced. So if these rankings end up becoming close to what they are, these two teams will be fairly equally matched. I don't see it happening, but maybe this will be their final rankings. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Let's take a look at BYU and Utah. Again, two great teams. Slight edge in offense for Utah, but their defense is lights out. Incredible group of talented players and very, very deep on the defense. So if these are actual rankings, that's going to be a good team to play with this year. All right, let's see what else we got. So we got Arizona versus West Virginia. To be determined, right? Is Arizona going to be able to transition from the Pac 12 to the Big 12? There's some good teams in the Big 12 that have a little bit of an edge on recruiting with football. So should be interesting. We'll see how close the actual offense and defensive ratings are and overall teams are later this week. Next matchup is Cal UNC, right? So we're looking at 87 overall by North Carolina. Very balanced team. Cal, again, moving from the Pac 12 to the ACC. Will be interesting how competitive they are in their first season, and literally coast to coast conference this year with teams out in California. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We have Minnesota and Maryland. All right, so fairly balanced two teams, right? Both appear, if these are actual rankings, 85 overall. It's toss up between the two matchups. I'm hoping that there'll be slight tweaks in the offense and defensive ratings as new people have been coming in from the transfer portal right before the beginning of the year. So we will see what happens. All right, let's take a look at Arizona State versus Utah. We've already covered Utah. Arizona State, difficult offense and struggling defense coming out of the Pac 12 again, going into the Big 12. They're going to have to prove themselves. So we'll see what happens. All right, next one, Minnesota and Iowa. Kind of already covered both of these teams when Iowa is against Michigan and Minnesota versus Maryland. Again, very close teams, so we'll see how close these offense and defensive rankings are. Again, I mentioned in the last video, Iowa appears to have probably one of the top defenses in the country based off of the current EA rankings. I don't know how they're doing those rankings since all these players' rankings are brand new, but obviously they're using some cool algorithm to figure it out and factor in new players and everything else. Okay. Again, we've already covered Michigan, returning national champs. I just noticed this. Michigan's ratings here are different. 93, 92, 92. So I guess these are strictly just for visual purposes. And then again, we kind of talked about it. Indiana, not the strongest offense and not the best defense. And then we'll just kind of fly by these last couple. We've already talked about Utah. Again, Baylor has a very strong defense. Shows pretty equally matched between these teams. We'll see how close to factual that is. And again, we have Duke versus Miami, two ACC teams with some pretty strong history with each other. Nothing outstanding from these two ball clubs. All right, so let's take a look at the last couple matchups. We have Boston College versus Pitt, ACC matchup of two schools further up north. Should be interesting to see how good Pitt's defense is. Historically, very strong team. And then another Big Ten matchup with Michigan State versus Illinois. And then this is probably one of my favorite graphics. Just NC State versus Clemson. Go Wolfpack. Don't hate on me for all those Clemson lovers, but I'm excited. NC State's been having some good performance across all their sports. So, and then last but not least, we're looking at just the flip of Michigan and Iowa, what we previously looked at. So appreciate the tuning in. Please click a like. Please subscribe. And peace. I'm out of here.